So according to you, what do you mean by product design? Somebody has written expression of usability, solving problem by designing experiences, okay, process of ideating, developing, refining products that meet specific market needs and solve user problem, engaging UI. So, okay, engaging UI. Okay, Shweta Das is saying then Priya Varshini's process of creating products, etc. ABCD, whatever. ठीक है. Everybody is fine. ठीक है. The product design is the whole UX related to the product itself. Okay. So सबसे पहले तो हम ये डिसाइड करते हैं कि फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग क्या होती है. व्हाट इज फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग? देन विल टॉक अबाउट व्हाट इज प्रोडक्ट थिंकिंग, देन विल टॉक अबाउट व्हाट इज डिजाइन थिंकिंग. ठीक है. सबसे पहले फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग इज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ फिगरिंग आउट द कोर assumptions in a particular product which don't change. Like, I'll give you an example. Think of, I have given this example multiple times. Whenever you get a great experience, like you are ordering something from Swiggy, right? It is like a first principle behavior that you say that if I give food at an optimal cost and simultaneously it comes in the right time and it's the right quality and everything, and if you give a very good food selling experience, people will not go to the preceding experience, which is actually going to the restaurant, standing there in a queue, right? And do all of those things, right? So you would essentially move to a new experience, which is, so what are those variables? I'll write those across. So old food booking experience. ठीक है. तो इसको हम यहाँ पे लिखते हैं और यहाँ पे लिखते हैं रेस्टोरेंट और यहाँ पे लिखते हैं स्विगी. ठीक है. नाउ टाइम टेकन टू order something. Okay, because it's a restaurant, it doesn't have that many options, that many structures across it. You might find it, you might now not find it. On an average, it will take to 1 to 2 hours to effectively find the place where you actually get the food you want. क्योंकि अब अगर मानो स्विगी जैसी कोई चीज एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती थी, if let's assume there wasn't anything that Swiggy, you would have essentially to look down the internet, looked at the listings of multiple restaurants, picked up, called them that do you have biryani, do you have this, do you have do not, right? And it would have taken you 1 to 2 hours. In Swiggy, it takes you 10 minutes. And then price, right? General price, the cost that you incur is that you have to go to the restaurant. Okay? You have to stand in a queue. Okay? And you have to pay the price which the restaurant owner decides. Okay? It has no competition. Okay? Swiggy, standardized prices. This is the second thing. Price में भी आपको standardized मिलते हैं. Third, time taken. It will take you probably 1 to 2 hours to go to the restaurant, pick up the food, bring it back. Swiggy, it will take you 45 minutes max. कभी-कभी ज़्यादा हो जाता है, but on an average 45 minutes. So practically, you spend 4 to 5 hours on getting the food you wanted, probably at a higher cost than market. On the contrary, Swiggy mein the same thing happened in 55 minutes at a great cost and simultaneously competitive discovery. Correct? On the very same thing that we just did right now, would you ever go back to the restaurant experience? Because the Swiggy experience is so better, right? You would never go back. What is this first principle here that you are getting, right? The first principle is that anything that adds value to your life in an affordable structure, right? You would not want to leave that experience, right? That is why we say that anything that adds value adds happiness to your life, and anything that adds happiness to your life, you want to repeat that experience, right? So if A is equal to B is equal to C, then anything that adds value to your life you want to repeat that experience. That's why we say in product management that great product experience have high retention. Ab baat chamki. Pretty much. But from a market, so Cosmic Karma is saying if we enjoy the restaurant work very much, that's an alternate problem statement, right? I am not saying that restaurants will be dissolved, but that's an experience that you want to inculcate. 99% of the time when you order food, it may not be the, or 95% of the time, the experience is that you want to get your food, right? 5% times you want to visit a restaurant with your spouse, you want to do things, bunch of things over there. You have to design the experience completely differently in that case. That's why there were different startups like Food Panda, Groupon, etc., ABCD, Zomato, whatever they did, right? But the thesis of the first principle there was different, right? So if effectively anything that adds value to your life, you essentially want to repeat that experience, do it consistently again and again, again and again. That's why you don't go to a vendor, flight booking vendor now. You go to Make My Trip, because that experience is simpler, right? You don't essentially call a taxi service, you book Uber. That's a simpler experience, right? And that's why we say any great experience, right, should have higher retention. Yahan tak sab log mere sath clear hai? This is what you call as first principle thinking. What is the underlying principle or intrinsic motivation of the customer to repeat that experience? Now, second question, what is product thinking? तो फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग हमने डिसाइड कर लिया, इट इज finding the hypothesis which essentially adds value to people's life, and we say it is going to stay true for a consistent amount of time, a significant amount of time. That's your first principle, right? What is product thinking? Problem solving methodology for developing valuable solution for user problems. ठीक है? Stepping into, Cosmic Karma says, stepping into the shoes of a potential user, identifying problems using first principles and solving them. To a certain level, you are absolutely right, dude. Right? Thinking for product, whatever, thinking of creating a product that solves any issue or makes your life easy. Okay, so product thinking is essentially when you start thinking from a product layer perspective. What I mean by that is that now you have identified a first principle which kind of resides in the problem space, which you essentially say, okay, so this is the problem, and based on this problem, I want to build a hypothesis. Product thinking essentially means how do you translate that into some kind of a product layer, which essentially kind of solves the problem at some level at scale, right? What I mean by that is that essentially if you're trying to solve a macro problem, you have identified a first principle that this has to exist. How do I essentially come up with a solution or the fundamental thesis of that solution through which I can build some level of technology layer on top of it, which can solve the problem at scale? That is what you call as product thinking. Product thinking is coming up of solutions which can be used at scale to solve a potential problem which we have identified through first principle. So Cosmic Karma is actually right in a certain level. Yes, that it essentially, but the important part about product thinking is that we always start thinking from this perspective that how will this solution translate at scale, right? यहां तक बात समझ में आ गई तो तुम्हें पता चल गया प्रोडक्ट थिंकिंग लेयर पे यू इफेक्टिवली कम अप विद अ सॉल्यूशन, राइट? दैट दिस इज what kind of solution should exist, right? And if this solution exists, the problem would be solved. First principle thinking is identifying of that hypothesis. Second, how does your product layer or your technology layer essentially solve that problem at scale is the attitude of a great product thinker. यहां तक बात सबके साथ क्लियर है, अलाइंड है सब मेरे साथ? ठीक है. अब सेकंड स्टेप के बाद व्हाट इज डिजाइन थिंकिंग? व्हाट इज डिजाइन थिंकिंग? ये जो ज्ञान वाले वर्ड्स होते हैं ना, मेरे को बड़े अच्छे लगते हैं सुनने में. फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल हो गया प्रोडक्ट थिंकिंग, डिजाइन थिंकिंग क्या हो गया? व्हाट इज डिजाइन थिंकिंग? तो हमने सबसे पहले बोला व्हाट इज फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग. ठीक है, इट रिजाइड्स इन द प्रॉब्लम स्पेस. ठीक है, इट इज अबाउट आइडेंटिफाइंग a core value prop which stays true over a significant population and span of time. ये क्लियर है? Second is, what is product thinking? It stays in the solution space. Identifying product layer ideas which essentially solve the problem or the hypothesis at scale. Make sense? ठीक है, उसके बाद आता है डिजाइन थिंकिंग. अब मैं आपसे ना एक इंटरेस्टिंग सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं. ठीक है, सो अज्यूम, ठीक है, सो जस्ट टेक एन अजम्पशन. ठीक है, you went to makemytrip.com and what happened was that you wanted to book a ticket. Now the flight booking UI, which is like from to wherever you see that, it's on some random page somewhere where the discovery is very poor, right? The page is not easy, even though the same service actually solves the problem for. So assume there are two websites, one is Vistara, one is Make My Trip. Okay, in Make My Trip, the finding, the search or the discovery of basically putting the values of from to how many people, where you want to travel, is on some random page. On Vistara, it's on the front page, the home page. In spite of the same product adding the same value to your life, that it is helping you book tickets, right? Can you tell me which website will you use? Will you use Vistara? Will you use Make My Trip? Yes. So design thinking is the layer after product thinking, which essentially means that I have figured out a value. Now, how do I make it so simple for people to consume it in the first 30 seconds? Correct? That is what is, that's why you see across the world, take any travel website, they have fundamentally the same UX. Correct. Ankit is right. It's the ease and simplicity of using the product. So design thinking is the layer. How do you essentially provide value to the end customer of your product in the least possible effort? Again, I'll repeat. Design thinking is the thinking process in which you essentially give the value of the application to the end user in the smallest possible effort. बात समझ में आई? Is it clear? Everybody aligned with me? What I mean by that is, for example, take an idea of an iPhone. iPhone है क्या? It's a supercomputer. You can do practically anything on it, right? But in order to set that phone up, right, it takes you practically 10 minutes. You effectively have a supercomputer in your, right? Supercomputer in your pocket. But on the contrary, you are essentially very easily able to essentially use the product because of the design thinking layer. They have figured out that what is the easiest possible onboarding flow through which you can cover 60-70% of whatever applications the iPhone does in 10 minutes. So design thinking is the layer where the value of the product layer is given to the end user in the least possible effort or time. Now, from here originate what you call as product design questions. So now you understand that the product design questions reside at the design layer, which essentially means you figured out a solution. What is the most beneficial UI, UX, information design, interaction design, so that the value of the end product is delivered in the fastest possible way, right? Let me give you another example, right? So let's look at Uber as an example. Okay? So design thinking in general has 4 core pillars. So the 4 layers of product design are: number 1, conceptual design; number 2, information design; number 3, interaction design; number 4, visual design. Right? Absolutely. These are the four pillars of conceptual design, information architecture or information design, whatever you want to call it, interaction design, and visual design. Now, as product managers, what mistake do we do? We spend a lot of time on visual design. Don't we do that? UI बढ़िया है तो यार product भी अच्छा ही होगा. ऐसा ही बोलते हैं ना हम. ऐसा ही बोलते हैं ना. Where do according to you as product managers, aspiring people, where do you think most people spend most of their time? Nitya is absolutely right. Sundar banane mein. That's correct. So unfortunately, the way people build products is people spend 50% here, maybe 30% here, maybe 10% here. यहाँ तो सोचते ही नहीं है 5% होगा probably, right? On the contrary, great product managers do 60% here, 20% here, 10% here, and probably 10% here. This is great product. This is okay product. Maybe works, maybe doesn't. Now, what do you mean by these things? Okay, so let me ask you a question. What is conceptual design?